What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar with C-Zar Gets Crypto, and we are talking about Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin today. Probably a little bit of Bitcoin in the beginning, but really the main point of this video is going to be the correlation between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And if I bump it out to the monthly here, let's see if I can make this look a little bit better. Get it to move. Yeah, maybe I'll put Bitcoin on top. Maybe I'll put Bitcoin Cash on top. It's just got less, so I feel like it's easier to see. Yeah, looking at it like that. Okay, so you can see that Bitcoin has a longer chart. That's because Bitcoin Cash is the hard fork. It's a newer blockchain, right? I mean, it's the same blockchain to a certain degree, right? Like technically all of this stuff before what we have here, this is for Bitcoin Cash as well. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that this video is going to be a comparison between Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin and the correlation that they share. Shout out to the Dragon Riders in the House of the Dragon. This is the correlation coefficient right here, and on a monthly scale you can see that even when we're less correlated, we're still above the zero, showing positive correlation literally throughout all of Bitcoin Cash's existence. And for most of its existence, it's above the 0.64, 0.6 area, so it's definitely more correlated than it is uncorrelated. It's actually never been uncorrelated. And you can see it in the price, right? You can see this more vibrant candle. I don't know what to call it. This more vibrant candle. It's pattern, not pattern, candle. I don't know. This part is Bitcoin. This dull part is Bitcoin Cash. Okay, not that Bitcoin Cash is dull. That's just how TradingView did it on default. But this set of candles, that's the word I'm looking for, is set. This set of candles is dull. Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin. And looking at them, you can just see Bitcoin kind of had a boring period. Bitcoin Cash had a boring period. Bitcoin had a nice little green month here, 11.9% to the upside. Bitcoin Cash had an even bigger move to the upside. Bitcoin's been moving down for the past couple months, so has Bitcoin Cash. But what we're really going to talk about right now, because I feel like the Bitcoin Cash chart itself has been giving some mixed signals, I do want to talk primarily about the Bitcoin chart in the beginning, and then we'll move back into the Bitcoin Cash, or like the correlation between the two. So looking at Bitcoin, looking at it here on the daily, you can see that it's not quite as bullish as Bitcoin Cash, right? It's definitely, you still have lower highs and you have lower lows. Volume is declining as you're in this range, which indicates that we're probably going to break out of it at some point. Now, are we going to break out of it to the upside or to the downside? I don't know. I mean, I would kind of expect to the downside because we are still in a downtrend. I would give it to the bears overall. If we're looking at this from top to bottom here, we can see that right now we're actually finding a little bit of resistance at the 382 from this relative fib in this range. We're also finding resistance at the 786. Maybe we close today above the 618, which is fine. You know, we would still have on the RSI a higher high here while promoting a lower high here, and that would be hidden bearish divergence, which you generally see in a downtrend, which we're in now. So if we're to turn around here and we're in a downtrend, likely where we would go is below this low here, and I do think we're eventually going to do that. I feel like we even kind of look, if you look back, like comparing this, kind of like this, where you moved sideways, had this weird little pump up and then down. Here you move sideways, weird little pump up and then down, but this just had a more slanted tilt to the downside. I think if we were to do something like this, you know, maybe Bitcoin only goes down to about here, which that line actually is right at 24,300, which if you guys remember from my video yesterday or anytime I've talked about Bitcoin in like the recent weeks, I've been calling for a price to go right to where these weekly closes is, and look at that, it's right there at 24,300, just a little bit below that, but right in that range would make sense to me, with the possibility of going lower. I just personally don't think that we're going to go lower than this low here, and this low is at 19,568, so maybe we could go all the way down there. I wouldn't think that we would break that low, but truthfully, I would think somewhere probably between here and what was it, 23.3, I think, because on the monthly basis too, you also have a monthly close right there. Yeah, and then you even have monthly closes down here, so maybe 23,000 itself, something like that, in this range would be what I would expect. Probably closer to this line, but who knows? Who really knows? But looking at it, this isn't a Bitcoin prediction, right? This is for Bitcoin Cash and showing that they are correlated. If we look at this here, you can see that they are very correlated. This is the correlation coefficient for Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash. They are very correlated. Anytime that they get uncorrelated, right, other than the very beginning days, it's only for like a day or 2 or 3 days, right? It's never that long. They're more often than not very correlated, right? So I would expect that if Bitcoin drops, what's bad for Bitcoin is probably bad for Bitcoin Cash. I wouldn't expect Bitcoin Cash to go on its own rally while Bitcoin is still struggling. And I being real, I do think that this chart looks like it's struggling a bit. And I think that we're at the end, or maybe not the end, but we're coming to the end of this consolidation phase down here, this little price action zone right here. And when we break out of it, whether it's down or up, I personally think down, we're going to see an increase in volume to kind of signal that, right? We saw volume declining here, and then we got an increase in volume, and that was when we broke out of this previous price range here. So I would expect something like that again to happen. Maybe it's big, maybe it's not, who knows? We don't know what big is anymore, you guys, right? Everybody thinks that this was a big move. It was 7.2%. We haven't had a big move, arguably, in over a year. The last, like, quote-unquote big move was a 10% day here in November of 2022, almost a year ago, right? About 10 months ago. And that was only a 10% move. We've had much bigger moves than that. 14% here, right back over here. We had a 15% move. We haven't had a double-digit move percentage-wise in over a year. And you can go back and check that for yourself because that's actually accurate. But I don't think we know what a big move is anymore. So if we had a candle that was bigger than this or bigger than this even, that wouldn't surprise me. And maybe it won't be. Maybe we just slowly bleed down too. But I would think that we are going to go below this low here for Bitcoin, which would indicate that Bitcoin Cash and probably likely most cryptos would go down as well. Looking at the daily here, we do have higher highs in the RSI, lower highs in price, which indicates a hidden bearish divergence. We are at the, from top to bottom here, we are finding resistance at the 786. So coming back down, from here, if we can close in the next 3 hours and 21 minutes, if we can close above the 618, I would think that would be a good thing for sure. But then, consequently, if the next day we end up closing below it, that would be a bad thing. This would be false hope, and it would kind of actually be a stronger case to the downside. We are only up 1.5% today, so in the next 3 hours, can Bitcoin reverse 1.5%? Absolutely it can. It doesn't need much time to do that, so it's possible. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does have a green day, but something about the way this looks, I mean, we're moving up and volume's dying off is not sitting well with me. You can see it here, right? Volume's dying off even on the 4 hour as we're moving up. And on the 4 hour, we have bearish divergence, which tells me that this move down before the end of the day really could come into play right now. Correlation is high between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. So again, just reaffirming that idea that what's good for Bitcoin is good for Bitcoin Cash. What's bad for Bitcoin is bad for Bitcoin Cash on the likely note. On the hourly, we have even more bearish divergence. So I really do think that Bitcoin looks kind of salty. It kind of looks like it wants to go down, in my opinion. And they are holding a very high correlation between each other, right? Again, moving up, you're getting higher highs with, I guess technically here, you do have increasing volume, don't you? You do have increasing volume, but oh so barely. Your histogram overall is still down. It is going lower, so the average volume is actually decreasing, but I don't know. I don't know what to use, what metric to use. I think I like to use them both, so the fact that they're both disagreeing, I don't really know what to make of that, so we'll just go off of price itself, which the price to me looks bearish using these indicators here, using the fact that we are at a previous area of resistance back here in this price range here. And I was trying to compare this earlier, talking about how they look pretty similar. It wouldn't surprise me if we found resistance here and we continue to move down as we did last time, but I don't think that we would find support down here. I think we would break through it, right? Opposed to last time where we did find support and it sent us up. I think if this time we found support on this exact same area and went up, but we didn't get the same move, I think that'd be bearish, and that would indicate that we do go lower. And where would we go? Probably to this area's previous area of resistance right here, which is also just below 24K. Maybe we go up to this wick here, somewhere in between, which that there is at 24.26K. Somewhere in between, maybe, who knows, but lower is ultimately where I think this is going to go, which again would not be good for Bitcoin Cash. Looking at Bitcoin Cash now, BCH USD on Coinbase, there's a couple of things that could look good for Bitcoin Cash, excluding the fact that if Bitcoin does bad things, then it's probably not going to be good for Bitcoin Cash. But what you'd want to see is a close above this white line, which right now in 3 hours and 18 minutes we are only up 0.33% on the day. But if we were to close above this white line, then I think that would be a good sign for Bitcoin Cash. We did technically close above it yesterday, right? You can see this barely right here. But we didn't even close. We closed like 0.07% up above it. So that's not even 0.1%. I wouldn't consider that a break. I would consider this just tomfoolery. Bitcoin Cash is messing with us. It's teasing us, not giving us a directional heading, and it's kind of being unclear. And with that, you know, even though it's unclear, and it's definitely, this is out of all of these little like pumps we've had, this is really the only one that's made me kind of sweat and scratch my head here. That's why I'm taking a point to compare this to Bitcoin itself, because I feel like seeing them correlated, seeing how well correlated they are, if we look at Bitcoin, it's a different chart, similar chart, but different. And if we can get a better idea of what Bitcoin's going to do, then maybe we can get a better idea of what Bitcoin Cash is going to do after all. Bitcoin is the Mac Daddy in crypto. It does have the highest market cap, and the market tends to follow Bitcoin and its trajectories. So I would think that since Bitcoin looks bearish, that does add a little bit more fuel to the idea that Bitcoin Cash will go lower. And, you know, I still have that buy order at 145. I haven't moved it. You know, as much as that's been a topic on my mind, it's been a thought, I haven't done it yet, and I don't plan on doing it unless we get more bullish things coming in. And primarily what I would look for first would be, again, a close above this white line. Secondly, what I would look for is price that's above this high here. Let's get a higher high than this, but really truthfully like a higher high than this. Once we get all of those things, then we have a higher low scenario and a higher high scenario. We have successfully broken out of the downtrend itself, and now we are in an uptrend. So then what I would do at that point is kind of wait for the previous area of resistance, or like the next area of resistance, I'm sorry, to hit, and then come down and buy it at an area of support, which like a lower high, or a higher low, I'm sorry, would put us lower than we are now. So I wouldn't mind moving my buy order up from 145 to 200. Of course, I'd mind it in the sense that I would like to buy cheaper, but just because we break out above here would not mean I'm going to be itching to buy, because nothing moves in a straight line. Even on the way down, Bitcoin Cash, it didn't move in a straight line. I didn't just draw it wiggly like that because I was just being silly. Like it does not move in a straight line. There are opportunities. If you wanted to sell, but it dropped and you missed your chance, well, you don't sell it down here. You wait for it to pull back a little bit and then you sell. And where did it pull back to? You know, if you look at this high like daily close right here on the low side, it literally pulled back right to there. So that would have given you an opportunity to sell. Even if you didn't sell there and you waited for the daily close, seeing that kind of confirmation of testing this previous area as resistance, I think would be a signal in itself. And if you did that, you would have done good. So again, I wouldn't panic sell here. I would wait and buy it up or sell it up here. Same thing kind of here, right? I'm not going to panic buy if we break this line. I'm going to wait till we come back down. I would be totally comfortable buying at the exact same price if we had a move like that, though, right, where we were testing this as support instead of potentially testing it as resistance. So while Bitcoin Cash is giving mixed signals to the downside, to the upside, whatever, I think there are equal cases to be made for both sides. Patience is the name of the game, guys. Patience, patience, patience. We could even get some wonky stuff where we do break up, we do get a higher high, and then we go lower. Like, there's no rule in the book that says we can't do that. As unfortunate and tragic as that would be, it would definitely make me happier. You know, something like that, I would think it wouldn't like slowly happen. I would think like if we got a psych, it would be like straight down to the downside, make people panic sell their the things that they just bought at these high prices. But who knows what happens. If we were to get something like that, I would definitely be happy that I didn't buy here or I didn't buy on the breakout, right? So watching for that, definitely watching for that. But at the moment too, I am more expecting that we go to the downside. Yesterday I was saying 50-50 chance that we go up, 50-50 chance that we go down. I would say more now that we have a 60% chance that we're going down and a 40% chance that we're going up from here on Bitcoin Cash. Even if we were to close above this day, like, you know, even if we closed here or a little bit higher, I would still say that because Bitcoin itself does look very bearish. And again, going to the BTC chart, BTC USD, looking at it on Coinbase here, whether it's week to week, right? Week to week, month to month, day to day, more often than not, we are correlated. It's very uncommon, or it's not uncommon, but it's a lot less common that we are uncorrelated. And when we are, it's only for a day or so, and then we continue to move up. Let's actually see what we did on these uncorrelated days before I get a move on here. Let's see. Come here, Bitcoin Cash. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Blow this up a little bit. There we go. Okay. So Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash were uncorrelated on this day here, right? Right here. Bitcoin closed neutral with a 0.17%. Bitcoin Cash had a nice little pump up that day, right? You can see it there, little pump up. And then the next 2 days, it just gave it right back. So that was like a fake move, just like a weird little whatever. Could we see something like that where we get a fake move, a weird little whatever to the upside and then turn around? Absolutely. But we're not in those areas of uncorrelation. And this wasn't even that uncorrelated. It was slightly negative, right? Meaning that on average that these things do, and it did revert back to the correlated side. So even though Bitcoin wasn't moving higher and Bitcoin Cash was, it did inevitably move lower and take Bitcoin Cash with it, thus putting it back into correlation. Here, we weren't uncorrelated, but we were neutral. I mean, price for Bitcoin was kind of moving down. Bitcoin Cash was kind of, moving up while Bitcoin was moving sideways, moving down, and the Bitcoin Cash was moving down too, so pretty similar in my opinion. Looking at it on Bitcoin Cash to Bitcoin here, I'm going to get rid of all this stuff here. Uncorrelated here, when you can see that Bitcoin had a low on the exact same day that Bitcoin Cash had a low, and then Bitcoin Cash pumped the same day that Bitcoin pumped, and yet they're uncorrelated. That doesn't make sense to me. Maybe because Bitcoin Cash was in a downtrend by this point and Bitcoin was still technically like forming some kind of uptrend. Maybe that's what it is. But even when they're uncorrelated, what I'm trying to get at is they still move very comparable to one another. So, and when they are uncorrelated, it's very barely and it's for a very brief amount of time. So reinstating the idea that, or reinforcing, that's what I'm looking for, reinforcing the idea that the Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash correlation is something to take into consideration. I can't talk, guys. Something to take into consideration. I do think that Bitcoin looks like it wants to move lower, and I think that would mean that Bitcoin Cash itself wants to move lower. So that's all I got to say. Before I keep repeating myself, I'm going to end it there. If you guys like the video, I appreciate all the thumbs ups. If you want to subscribe, that would be awesome as well. I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.